Welcome, everyone. Hi, Leslie Andrechuk here from Alpha Woman. Welcome to today's webinar. Really happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us. As you know, today we're talking with Catherine Freeland, who is the co-founder of Felix SR&ED. I'm really excited to have Catherine with me today to talk about the SR&ED tax incentive program offered by the CRA. She's here to answer all your questions, to provide you with details about the program. So something really wonderful about Catherine is that she is a scientist, as many of you are and may be. She's also a consultant and an entrepreneur. She completed her PhD in molecular biology in France prior to coming to Canada to work as a stem cell scientist at Princess Margaret Hospital. So during her academic career, she helped a lot of clients with regards to financing their R&D projects. And out of that, Felix SR&ED was born in 2015. Now, Catherine is now focusing on helping the healthcare and cannabis industries, which are in need of lots of research. So the other thing to know is that Felix has been a wonderful supporter of Alpha Woman, and we want to thank them for their ongoing support and for helping these two industries that are so essential, particularly these days. But before I turn over to Catherine, I wanted to quickly tell you a little bit more about Alpha Woman Co. for those of you who don't know about us. So Alpha Woman is a media, publishing, and events company. Our mission is to help women optimize their lives physically, mentally, professionally, and financially. And we do that through our various platforms, starting with our digital publication, alphawomanco.com. We also have a podcast where we interview inspirational Alpha women every week. And in fact, one of those women that we interviewed was Catherine a few weeks ago about her journey as an academic, a scientist, and an entrepreneur. So don't miss her episode and other great episodes by subscribing at podcastalphawomanco.com or finding us on Spotify and iTunes. And new to Alpha Woman Co. is our weekly webinars. We did our first one last week, so this is our second one. And keep your eye out for upcoming virtual conferences and webinars. So we're really obviously very excited to do this one today because we did have this scheduled as a face-to-face event on March 24th. And due to COVID, we are so happy to be able to bring this to you virtually today. Thanks to Catherine and the team. Now, next week, we'll be featuring Alina Mazar, who is the Managing Director of Experiential at Fuse Marketing, and she'll be talking to us about building community during the time of physical distancing, so don't miss that one as well. And of course, we do in real life events. As I mentioned before, those are on hold for the moment, but always keep your eye out for those. And just a few more things. We do have a wonderful newsletter that you can subscribe to and keep up to date on all things Alpha Woman. Go to our site to sign up. Follow us on all the social channels. And of course, for any sponsorship opportunities, please get in touch with me at leslie@alphawomanco.com. All right, so this is where Catherine is going to take the helm. So how are you doing today, Catherine, in a snowy and cold Toronto?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thank you. Well, I'm home anyway, so I'm not cold.
That's true.
Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah, perfect. So today I wanted to talk about the SR&ED tax incentive program for the biomedical and cannabis sectors. And to talk about a little bit more about who's eligible and how to apply, it looks like especially in the medical field, things were a little bit confusing, and the CRA has published new guidelines a few months ago to explain who's eligible, who can apply, etc. So it clarifies a little bit what doctors and clinics and corporations can do in the medical field. So I'm going to talk about that today. So first of all, I wanted to introduce the SR&ED tax incentive program. So it's administered by the CRA. SR&ED means scientific research and experimental development. It's not a grant. It's a tax incentive program, so there's no competition involved. Any Canadian corporation that shows research activity can apply to the program. It's a program that is designed to support research and development in Canada, and it exists in a lot of different countries, but it's one of the most lucrative tax incentive in the world. So how it works with your tax return. So basically, you have to do one claim per year, per fiscal year. So it depends like when is ending your fiscal year. And you can do it retrospectively. So it's like when you apply, you have to do like an amendment of your tax return, of your company tax return. But you don't have to do it at the same time that your tax return. You can do it later on, and you have like 18 months after the end of your fiscal year to do your SR&ED claim. Well, we're talking about research and development. What is research and development according to the CRA? Well, it's the good news. It's like it's pretty much any kind of research is eligible. You'll have like basic research, applied research, or experimental development. Everything can be eligible to the program. We'll talk about it later, but there's like criteria in order to qualify projects to the program. But like any field, there's no restriction in the field of research. I hear often from people in the cannabis industry that the government doesn't want to fund a cannabis project, but that doesn't apply for the SR&ED. Like it's like as soon as it's research, it can be eligible to the program, cannabis or not cannabis. So that's pretty good for the cannabis field. The only thing that qualifies, the only important things I would say to apply to this tax incentive is to show that the project is eligible. And how to show that the project is eligible. So it's a little bit technical, but first of all, you need to show that you have a project and that you want to reach a scientific or a technological advancement with that project. The outcome of the project doesn't really matter. Like you can totally, like if you want to develop a new product or you want to, answer a scientific question, and if at the end you cannot succeed, you don't have the answer, or you were not able to do your product, it doesn't really matter. Like for the CRA, like the point is to do research, not to actually build something or answer a question. So the first criteria for the eligibility is this advancement, this like scientific objective. The other important, and I would say it's like the most important criteria to show the eligibility, is to show that there's a difficulty in what you're doing. It's not only routine work. It's not only that you want to develop like a product and you're like developing something without any problem. No, like you have to show that you have hit some obstacles and you had met some unexpected challenges, and you had to try again and fail and try again and fail and try again. So that's the entire like process basically that the CRA is judging. And the more difficulties you have, and the better, I would say. But that's a very important point. I really want to mention that this aspect, this difficulty, those obstacles are very important for the CRA. This is how they judge if the project is eligible or not. And I know that for some companies it's difficult, especially startup company, because in general, like when startup company want to like when they talk to the investors, like they tend not to really put the, and they don't want to talk about the difficulty and the problems of the project, but for the CRA, this is what they want to hear. The other point, we will define the eligibility of the project, is that you have to develop some kind of experimental development, a systematic investigation, to prove your point, to basically overcome this scientific or technological uncertainty. So this is a little bit technical, but this is very important for the SR&ED eligibility. In order to be a little bit more clear and like to explain a little bit better, I have like found some examples of like project that we saw with our like clients in the field of healthcare and cannabis. So the idea is just to give you an example of like what's eligible and what's not eligible in the cannabis industry, for example. So let's say, you know, you're a cannabis clinic and you have been treating your patients for many years, but you are not sure about, you know, which strain is the best to cure anxiety or epilepsy or pain, and you want to analyze your data, your patient data that you have collected for like many years, but like it's just for internal purpose, you know, it's just for you to know which strain is the best, which dose is the best, you know, like how long, like these kind of like questions, like you could do like some kind of like data analysis, and this would be eligible for SR&ED. The other thing is clinical trial, of course, like real clinical trials are absolutely eligible to the program, either for pharmaceutical or even for the cannabis industry also. So that's, it's not it's absolutely eligible. Also, the development of new products, so new devices, new diagnostic devices, or new surgical tools, whatever devices that are developed in the biotech field, like could be eligible, like you need to show that there's a difficulty, etc., but that could be also eligible to the program. Any kind of like new cannabis product can be also, you know, like this development could be also eligible to the program. Like you need to show, like for example, say you have faced some stability issues. I know from clients that one of the products are not very stable. So let's say you have a product, but you notice that, you know, after 2 months it's not the same, like, you know, like the product is not stable. So then you like doing like experiments and you try to go backward, you try to improve your stability. So that's going to be like an eligible project, for example. Safety issues, same thing, you know, like you don't know you have a product and you want to make sure that it's safe for people, for health, for people. You know, if you want to show the efficacy of whatever cannabis product you have developed, also it's eligible. All the digital health field, like app development, software development, we see a lot of that right now. Like it's also eligible. It's computer science, like so it's in the field of computer science, but it's also eligible. We have the case also of like preclinical research, the case of like clinical scientists that are working in hospitals but are not paid to do research. So they're basically doing research with their own money, with the money that they get with their clinical activity. So in that case, they can also, because they have like research expenses and they're not funded for that, like they can also claim SR&ED and it's totally eligible. And finally, another example in the cannabis industry, and like sometimes I've talked to companies who didn't think about that, but it's actually eligible, or the agricultural field. Let's say, you know, cannabis grower who want to optimize culture condition to grow their cannabis. So this is also research, and this is also eligible to the program. So you can see that like the variety of eligible projects is like huge. Like it's not like anything can be eligible pretty much. So like you just need, like if you're not sure, you just need to talk to us and we can discuss about like your project, but there's a lot of possibilities. That was the point of this slide. Yeah. So then how do we, so like the other part of the claim is like how much money can you get and what are the expenditures? So I have the question often from startup company who are looking for funding, and you know they're just open and they want to have some funding and they want to apply for SR&ED, and that's unfortunately not possible. So for the SR&ED program, you need to first spend the money in order to get back some money. So you need to, if you had like opened a startup company just now, like you cannot apply to the program. You need first to exist for a year to pay your taxes, and then you can apply for a credit or a refund. And you need to show that you had like research expenses. And those like expenses are salaries or wages of employees who were directly involved into research projects. So technicians, engineers, project managers, whatever. For those salaries and wages, like we have to work with you in order to make sure what was the contribution for each employee and what was the time each employee was working on like research project or not, because like it's actually very important, because the CRA knows that, let's say you're the CEO of your company, of your startup company, the CRA knows that you're not working full-time on research projects. Like you're gonna have to do a lot of other activities that are not research. So they really, I mean, they understand that you also do research, but you know, not 100%. So we cannot claim as a CEO 100% of your salary. But it could also apply to other employees. So we really need to make sure that we don't, you know, we don't overdo the system. Like we are like we do things right. So the material also used for the experiments. So in the bio field, it's going to be all the consumables, all the tips, the pipettes, and so on, are eligible are eligible expenses. All the contracts also, like if you have hired people to do part of the work, or like a contractor or another company to do part of the work, then you know you can claim the expenses, like the money that you invoice this company. And the same thing applied for third-party payments, meaning all the work that you have contracted to universities or college, etc. So all this, like all together, like we pool all these expenses, and it does what we call the SR&ED expenditures. And to do SR&ED expenditures, we had overhead costs. So overhead costs are pretty much like a percentage of the SR&ED expenditures. We add the overhead costs to the SR&ED expenditures, and we have a total of like qualifying expenditures. So from this number, from those qualifying expenditures, both the provincial and the federal government give you some money back. So most of the provinces of Canada participate also to the program. Ontario participates also, like the example here is for Ontario, but other provinces are also participating to the program. It's the same application. There's no other application to do for the provincial SR&ED claim. It goes together. So pretty much what's happening is like the federal government gives what they call an investment tax credit, which is like something like 35% of the qualifying expenditures. And it's refundable money, so it's pretty much cash that they give you back. Ontario has also a little like investment tax credit that is also refundable, and it's like 8% of the expenditures. And Ontario has also a little research and development tax credit that is like 3.5%. And this one is non-refundable. So it's going to be a credit on your taxes for the following year. But altogether, it's a pretty good amount of money that you can get back. It's a pretty good incentive, let's say. I'll have later on examples of like different kind of scenarios, just to show you like how much, like how, like is it worth it really to claim, you know, like and you'll see like it is. So who can apply? According to the last guidelines that the CRA has published, pretty much everybody can apply according to them, but it's not necessarily worth it for everybody. So individual doctors, individual physicians can apply. Physicians, if they are sole proprietors, they can apply, or if they are incorporated, it's even better. The problem with sole proprietors is the ITC is only 15%, and also they cannot give themselves a salary, so the amount of expenses is kind of limited. So if they have contractors, if they have paid other people to do the work, then it's worth it. If they have not, it's not really worth it.
Catherine,
yes.
What does ITC mean?
Investment tax credits.
Thank you.
The medical professional corporation, the clinics, let's say, are also eligible. Any Canadian controlled private corporations are eligible, and also other corporations. So we have the case of like foreign corporations, and they can claim SR&ED. It's not a problem. It's just that they get less. They get 15% instead of 35%. So okay, they can still claim SR&ED. So I have done a little like scenario just to give you an idea of like how much you know, like you could get back, like depending of like in which situation you are. So you can see, like, for medical doctors, like sole proprietors, like eligible salaries are not eligible. Like, well, they don't. So as a sole proprietor, you cannot get a salary for yourself. So basically, there is no expenses unless you pay contractors or other company to do the work, and you have expenses. Like, otherwise, it's not really worth it. But as a medical doctor, if you incorporate it and the corporation gives yourself a salary, then it's very worth it. Like you can see here on the example that I put like a salary of $100,000, and you can see that the total amount of money, refunded and non-refunded, it's going to be 65,000. So 2/3 of pretty much the money that was invested for research. So like it's a pretty good incentive. So that's for individual doctors, but also any, like the medical professional corporation or the Canadian corporations are eligible. And so what the CRA really clarified is that, so like those companies are eligible, like no matter what, if they are doing research themselves, if they are doing research for another party. So I, for example, like in the case of a clinic who's doing a clinical trial for a pharmaceutical company, so the clinic could also claim SR&ED. You need to be careful when you do that, because you need to remove from the expenses, from the pool of expenses that I explained you before, you need to remove the contract payments, or the money that the pharmaceutical company gave you to do the research. So you need to subtract that from the pool of expenses. That makes sense, because, you know, like probably the pharmaceutical company is claiming SR&ED on that money, and then, you know, like you were already funded, so you cannot double dip, basically. But you can still, and you're going to see, like it's still worth it to claim SR&ED, even if you got some money from another party, another company, or if you got some money from a grant, like you got, like your research is partly funded with a grant that you obtain, it's still worth it. And of course, if you're doing research for yourself, and if you also do research for other people, it's going to be a little bit more tricky to do, to calculate the SR&ED and to explain, you know, who did what, but it's still also okay. You can still apply for SR&ED.
So, Catherine, we have a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Would a CRO be eligible?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly, yeah, CRO are totally applying for SR&ED, and they get SR&ED. It's just they need to be careful about like the research they do for themselves, and the money that they got from pharmaceutical company to do research. But yes, they are eligible and they get money.
Thank you.
So I have here, for example, so it's like like a case study for companies that are doing only research for themselves, or they also do research for other people. So on the left side, you see here, like I have like an example of like eligible salary in total $500,000, and let's say $20,000 of like material. And you can see that the total amount of money refunded, like credit and refunded, it's something like 300,000, so which is a good amount of money. So worth it to do the SR&ED. But you can see also that in the case of, you know, it's like a CRO, for example, who's doing a clinical trial for another company, and then the CRO is paid to do that money. So and got like, you know, something like $520,000 to do the research, which is basically the amount of the money, you know, that was spent for research. So I did that on purpose to show you that even if you have the exact amount of money back from like the other company, like when you calculate your SR&ED, you're still able to get $100,000. So because you have had like overhead cost, and you have had like, you know, other expenses, and so that's exactly what the SR&ED is like helping you to pay. Even though you got money from like another party to do their research, you can still, like, you still have some expenses on your own, like that you pay yourself, and then that can be paid. You can have this money refunded by the CRA. So, I mean, if you are in that case, I mean, like, it's very worth it to do some kind of like analysis of like how much money you can get back. I mean, we can do that for you. We can calculate, we can estimate the amount of money that you can get back, and see if it's worth it or not for you to do to claim a shred. The other thing is how to do the how to do the claim. So there's two parts when you do your claim. There's like a technical part and there's a financial part. The technical part is very important because this is how the CRA will judge if the project is eligible or not. And that's the first thing that they are looking at. If they decide that the project is not eligible, that they don't go further. They just stop the review, and then like they just say no. So to show that the project is eligible, there's like a little documentation to write. It's basically 3 paragraphs to write, or you have to explain, the uncertainties that you met, and you have to tell the work that you did in the tax year. And the conclusion that you reached at the end of the tax year. Because basically you can have a project that goes on for several years. So you don't need to finish your project at the end of a fiscal year. You can also, say, yes, we have done this and this and that, but we haven't reached any conclusion, or we have reached part of the conclusion and we will go on next year. And then the following tax year, you can still apply with the same project, but you'll take the same project, but you'll describe other work that was done the following year. So it doesn't matter if the project is finished or not finished. It doesn't matter if the project goes on for several years. It's fine. It's totally fine. But those technical reports, it's very important actually that it's really well done, because that's pretty much how they define the eligibility of the project. The other part is the financial aspect of the claim. So it's, what you need to do is an amendment of your tax return, of your company tax return. So in case of audit, you need to prove that, you claim the right thing. So you need to keep all your receipt, like all the receipt for the material. It's better if you have timesheets to explain, what the employees are doing, and so in order to justify the percentage of time that is eligible for the shred or not. But in our experience, especially with the very small companies, with the startup company, like if people don't have their timesheets ready, it's still okay, like the CRA is still is still okay with it, but it's better to have timesheets, just to let you know. And also, like if you have like records of your experiments, of course, they may check, they may not, but they may check eventually in case of audit, but they may not, It's like when they audit you for your taxes, they may check or not. So it's better to keep everything.
Catherine, quick question. Has there been any change in how quickly or when and if the CRA is processing these claims with regards to COVID? Has anything changed?
So it's a little bit more slow right now. So there's with the COVID situation, and so I heard that there's so they have stopped auditing for some times.
Right.
Which is a problem because some companies were like so there's like a review process and an audit process. So those companies who are under review or audit, it's a little bit tricky for them because they're waiting for those audits to get their money. So that's an issue. I think like it was a little bit slowed down, but it's not supposed to be, like it's going to be back on track soon. It usually takes a few months.
So in normal circumstances, how long does it take to process a claim?
It's between, I would say, well, if it's the first time you apply, it's going to be longer. It can take up to 6 months, but if you apply regularly, it can take 2 months. It can be very rapid. Yeah. And so that's it. So that's us. So I mean, 2 of us, our CEO and myself. Our CEO is more into the financial aspect of the claim, and I'm more into the technical aspect of the claim. But we switch, and we are fine with everything. So I mean, if you need to talk to us, you can talk to both of us or other people of the team. And if you have questions, please visit our website, felixfred.ca. Also, please send me a message if you have any question, or contact me on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Also, we could also do some kind of estimate of like how much money you can get back if you think, you know, you're interested. I mean, it's totally free for you. Like we can do it like freely, you know, like rapidly, give you like a rough estimate, and then you can see if it's worth it or not. And we can also discuss about your project. Absolutely, we can tell you if the projects are eligible or not, and how to, you know, twist the project if you don't know how to twist the project. But don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
And are there other services you provide other than those ones you just mentioned?
Yeah, we also do some like assistance for grant writing.
Okay.
For example, for IRAP, like if you know IRAP, or also other kind of like grant, like we have helped clients with OC grant, MyTAC grants. So.
Okay. Okay. Great to know. And just a quick question. So I know we sort of focused a lot on more of the medical side, but say in the cannabis industry, you know, someone is producing an infused wine, for example. Is there any kind of R&D that could be applied to that? Is that something you would sort of look at on a case-by-case basis?
Anything can be eligible. You need to prove that what you want to do is difficult and it's far away from routine work. So that's the only criteria. So, you know, like I don't know what's going to be the formulation. Is it going to be safe? You know, how long can I keep it on my shelf without any problem? Like you just need to find, you know, like a uncertainty basically about the product.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you, Catherine. I wanted to thank everyone for being here on our second webinar of our weekly series. And you will be getting a video of this webinar after this webinar is over. So we'll send out an email with the link in that. We'd love your feedback. Stay safe and healthy, everyone in the Alpha Woman community. Love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Take care. Bye, everyone.